Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Today is National Honesty Day. Anything you want to share?
I'm Dan Batard, and I only agreed to do this because I thought I was hosting with Kornheiser. Bam!
What a sucker punch. On the eve of this huge fight, what a sucker punch. He just blindsided me.
It was just a jab, though. Wait till you see what's coming next. Uppercuts, haymakers.
Welcome to PTI. TK has the day off, so I'm joined from Miami by our great friend from Highly Questionable, Dan Batard.
Yeah, woo, I'm not used to that. I like that sound.
Well, we begin, of course, with tonight's NFL draft, which begins at 8 p.m. Eastern Time in Chicago. Every single thing for 3 months indicates Tampa Bay will select Jameis Winston with the first pick. But the Buccaneers refuse to say what they'll do, as if they're protecting some state secret. Dan, you're a draft geek. I'm sure you must know the multiple meanings of all this subterfuge.
I don't like the draft so much, but I imagine the reason that Tampa Bay is doing this, and I've actually talked to somebody in the organization, Mike, is because they're waiting to see if there's some sort of seismic offer out there that comes right before they have to make their decision. There's no harm in not telling anybody what they're doing, right? All you'd be doing by denying the pick, telling Winston that you're taking him, all you'd be doing is cutting off the ability to take offers for him.
Well, if you think he's as good as you're going to proclaim afterward later tonight, when you tell the world that he's the greatest thing, since, a young Dan Marino, then you could do that. You could actually say, we proclaim our love for this guy. Because they're going to do that anyway, Dan. It'll just appear very phony. But, I've heard, and you probably have heard this too, that the Buccaneers have already shored up people, some contractually, that they expect to be this vast support network for Jameis Winston. That would be an intelligent way to spend time and money going into this draft if you know you're going to take him. So I don't believe any of the subterfuge. I don't believe there's going to be any big deal coming. I know there's a talk about a three-way deal that could wind up happening between Philly and Cleveland and involve Marcus Mariota. You have to come up with something because the draft week has now become the draft 3 months, and there's nothing that happens except new rumors. So I don't believe any of that. I believe these guys will stay and go 1-2.
I do know a lot of people, though, Mike, are talking about Jameis Winston's last year, the stuff off the field, and that he wasn't as good last year as he was his first year. But I do believe the difference in there, and between those 2 years, is the first year he had Kelvin Benjamin. Tampa Bay's got 2 Kelvin Benjamins for him, 2 really good receivers. I think Jameis Winston's going there, and I think he's going to be really good there because of those tall receivers. Let's transition to basketball and OKC's decision to try playing Billy ball with new coach Billy Donovan. Are you a huffing, arrogant gasbag about college coaches, Mike? They don't usually have success in the pros, but they don't usually inherit 2 young superstars either. Larry Brown is the only spectacularly successful guy to transition well, but not even he inherited this much young talent. I love this move for all parties involved. Do you?
I don't know. I don't want to say I'm skeptical. I'm certainly not cynical. I guess I am skeptical, Danny. And it does have to do with, no, I'm not going to huff and puff about it. But, if I just look at a short list, and we all know the list, Lon Kruger, Tim Floyd, Mike Montgomery, the great Jerry Tarkanian. These guys weren't just college coaches. They were incredibly successful college coaches. And, I just think that it's about management of people, management of egos. Look, there's no place like pro basketball, and you know this from covering the Heat all these years, where the players have as much power in a sport as professional basketball players do in the NBA. Billy Donovan's going to have to deal with that. It's not about X's and O's or whether he knows the game. It's about being able to convince these guys, whereas the great Chuck Daly, who was successful at both, once said, you have to make it so they will let you coach them. Can Billy Donovan do that?
I know that, Mike, but of all those college coaches that haven't been successful, not a one of them, not Larry Brown, not a one of them had this in front of them. I can't believe the job that Billy Donovan just got. You never get the job for the college coach that has not one great young superstar, but 2. This is going to be so interesting to watch for a number of different reasons. It's going to be interesting to watch if Kevin Durant is healthy, and it's going to be interesting to watch if he's not healthy, because then he's got to get along with Westbrook. And how fascinating is that going to be?
He's only got one great superstar if Durant's not out there. I'm glad you brought that up. Because Danny, there's still questions about the roster because there are questions about the star. And as we have seen so many times in professional basketball, you're not winning without that guy. Russell Westbrook, who had a hell of a season for a terrific coach, as far as I'm concerned, couldn't even get his team to the playoffs. So if
Mike,
you go in there again without he's got to have Kevin Durant, or what's he got?
This is the best job a college coach has ever gotten, though. For at
Even
least
without
1 year,
Durant?
it's that.
Even without Durant?
For 1 year. For 1 year, yes.
Okay.
Give this job to him. It's going to be fun to watch.
Kevin Love's left shoulder has been operated on, Danny, but he felt well enough post-surgery to post this picture cheering on his teammates for the rest of the playoffs. Out 4 to 6 months, we now know Love ain't playing again until next season, and by then he could have been a free agent. Dan, is Kevin Love better off staying in Cleveland or going elsewhere?
So really the question is, should he choose happy or should he choose money, right? Because obviously staying in Cleveland, there's a lot more money. That's irrefutable. But, Mike, I do feel like we're in the middle of a situation with Kevin Love in Cleveland where we are recreating that Dwight Howard scenario in Los Angeles, right? Dwight Howard left more money to get away from a situation that was unhappy. And why? Under what circumstances? This has been a disaster in every way. Why would Kevin Love be happy in Cleveland?
Well, Danny, you know what? It's a great analogy to a point with Dwight Howard. And I was around that team a lot that year, and it was two things were clear. One, he knew he didn't fit all that well here in Los Angeles, where I am right now, and they didn't particularly want him to stay. I don't know if they don't want him to stay in Cleveland. We have to see how this bears out with the Cavaliers this postseason. Love's absence may change the whole dynamic, in which case maybe he could be a little happier with an increased role when people observe that they need him to win. We haven't finished that chapter yet. So you make a great point, but I think it depends where he goes. And how much does he need to win? I don't know Kevin Love so well as to know if he has to win to be happy. Because you know guys who have to. Kobe Bryant had to win to be happy. There are players like that. I don't know Love that well.
But here's the thing, though, Mike, because there are a lot of parallels between Kevin Love and Chris Bosh, and I felt like Chris Bosh was held in higher esteem when he was merely losing in Toronto, that when he came to Miami, became a champion, but was laughed at for the first time. Kevin Love in Minnesota was viewed in higher esteem than he is doing more winning. It's the rare case where winning hasn't helped him. I know, but winning hasn't helped him in Cleveland.
But Danny, the only winning that matters, of course, in pro sports is the playoffs. Now, and by the way, I mean, so if they win and he's not part of it, that's one scenario. If they can't win and you go, look at what they missed with Kevin Love, that's a completely different scenario. I think he's got a dilemma. But you know what? There's so much money coming, particularly after next season. He can opt in. He can do a one-and-one. A lot of things he can do. He's got flexibility. He's going to have good choices.
Looky here, Mike, there are actual games tonight. We spent so much time talking about transactions the first part of the show that we've ignored the actual action. Two teams had their seasons ended last night in hockey and basketball. Two more are on the brink tonight in basketball. Which series do you think is more likely to be pushed to 7 games? Bulls-Bucks or Clippers-Spurs?
You know what, Danny? As poorly as the Bulls have played for back-to-back games, they've been outplayed for 3 games, it's quite possible that could be pushed to 7 games. I still, by some sort of margin of 60-40, expect the Bulls to win tonight.
Because you're a Bulls homer. Because you're a Bulls homer. Because your heart is there.
If I was a homer, I'd say they're going to win. I'm the one who predicted on this show they were probably going to lose Game 5. So, thanks for paying attention from Miami.
I wasn't watching. I'm sorry.
The Clippers-Spurs is such a fascinating series, and it is the best series, the most compelling series, probably the only one. That's the series that can go 7. We've already seen the Clippers win in San Antonio. We've already seen the Clippers outplay San Antonio probably for the balance of a game and lose a couple of times. I still think I'm going to give a slight edge to San Antonio playing at home, the champs. But that series could really come back to 7 right here to L.A.
I think most people would agree, right? There's no difference between the Spurs and the Clippers, right?
Very little.
I mean, most
People,
people would say there's not much of a difference. But how about this one? How about this, Mike? Every time Popovich has been up 3-2 in a series, every single time he has won that series in his career, unless Ray Allen makes a miracle shot, the biggest shot in the history of the sport. So usually when San Antonio is in this position, not usually, every time, every time it won. No, I don't think it's done because I don't think there's any difference between those two teams. And the Clippers are going to give you the same effort that they gave you in Game 4.
They better give a greater effort. They better give a greater effort. And here's one other factor to me, Danny. They have got to figure out a way. Doc Rivers got to figure out a way that Blake Griffin is not hang-dog tired down the stretch like he was the other night when he went 1 for 9 in the fourth quarter. They can't survive that. I do expect Chris Paul to have a great Chris Paul game, but Blake's got to be there too. I mean, a lot of things have to happen for the Clippers to win that game tonight.
He's tired from filming all those commercials. That's why he's tired.
The Portland Trail Blazers were eliminated last night from the playoffs by Memphis, but the goodbye could be a little more significant than that for LaMarcus Aldridge. The four-time All-Star is going to be a free agent this summer, and there's plenty of interest, including in his home state of Texas. Dan, as a free agent acquisition, would Aldridge be a piece or a centerpiece?
I really love LaMarcus Aldridge. Love everything about his game, Mike. I really do. But he's been in Portland for 8 years as the centerpiece, and they've advanced. They've won one playoff series. I think he is, to be a championship team, he's got to be your second best player. And I don't think it's fair to judge him off of this last series. I mean, Zebo and Gasol going against them with all sorts of ailments. When he's got ailments, I know he wasn't very good and he shot 33%, but I don't think it's fair to blame a guy for playing through not having surgery, which is what he needed.
Completely agree with you, Danny. And, you know, it could be a piece, not just a piece, but a huge piece. I mean, there's talk about potentially him going to San Antonio. My goodness. If he's playing with Kawhi Leonard in San Antonio, he can be the difference-making piece. I don't know that centerpiece means to me sort of transformational player, and I wouldn't call him a transformational player, but he is a solid all-star. When healthy, he can dominate stretches of the postseason. But I think I'm with you. For a championship team, and let's face it, that's what LaMarcus Aldridge should be looking for at this point of his career. He's made all-star teams. He's gotten some, credit individually for his contributions. But he should be wanting to go somewhere where he can win a championship.
But San Antonio, get out of here. Like, that'd be perfect for him to transition and replace Tim Duncan. But we all know, right, that Tim Duncan's going to be playing 34 more years. Like, he's going to be blocking Blake Griffin's kid's shot in the playoffs 34 years from now.
Well, it seems to me, Dallas is a place you hear all the time, but can he make a big enough difference in Dallas with an aging roster if he's really a number 2 player or a 1B? All right, we're taking a break. But coming up, Freddie Roach says he's not sure Floyd Mayweather will even show up for Saturday's fight. We'll ask him why.
And we'll also ask him whether Manny and Floyd have an obligation to make this an exciting fight. They do, Mike. They do.
Yeah, to me and you, we're buying it on pay-per-view.
That's right.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
We are just 2 days away from Manny Pacquiao getting into the ring with undefeated Floyd Mayweather, and we welcome in Pacquiao's trainer, the legendary Freddie Roach. And we got to start with this comment you gave to USA Today, Freddie, where you said you weren't even sure whether Mayweather was going to show up for the fight. I trust you were teasing and just trying to get under Money's skin. Is that right?
Yeah, of course. The thing is, I know he's going to show up for the fight, but will he show up really to fight or will he run? That's what I'm interested. That's my major concern.
Many opponents, common opponents, Freddie, as you know, believe that Floyd is going to do what he always does, which is get in and get out and not present himself to be hit at all. How do you guys change that? How do you plan to change it?
Well, the thing is, I think we have to become a little bit of the counter-puncher. We have to feed him quite a bit, draw his lead out, and make him miss, and then jump in and make him pay. And I think that's a very good point, but I think we can do that throughout. And I also want to work his body a lot more than most people do. Nobody really attacks his body too much, and the thing is, I think his legs are going a little bit. You saw in the last 2 fights where he went to the ropes a couple times. He says he does that to make the fans more friendly, but I don't really think he cares about the fans so much. I think he does it because he has to, and his legs are a little bit shot. And when he lays in the ropes to Manny Pacquiao, wants to exchange with Manny Pacquiao, that's a huge mistake, in my opinion.
So much money and hype involved in this fight, Freddie. Do the fighters have any sort of obligation to make it an entertaining fight? These guys don't really knock people out. It's been a while since either of them do much of that. So do they have an obligation to make it entertaining, given all the money in it?
Yeah, well, we don't have any obligation in writing and so forth, but Manny Pacquiao does like to put a good show on, and I work with him every day with the mitts, and I got my chest protector, and he's been hitting me really hard with it, and he's been hurting me with that shot. He even knocked me down one day, but I asked Manny yesterday, I said, Manny, are you going to hit your opponent as hard as you hit me? And he said yes, and I said, oh, how so? I had a big smile on my face. And I said, okay, then we are going to knock this guy out for sure. And Manny's going to be going for the knockout. You might see him run a little bit from Mosley. Sorry, but Mayweather does run a little bit. And but that ring is only that big one. We'll make it smaller. We know how to cut the ring off, and we will catch him because the southpaw stance. He doesn't do well against. I mean, we studied a lot of tape with Zab Judah, and Judah did very good in the early rounds, but he got a little bit tired. And one thing about Manny Pacquiao, believe me, he does not get tired. He will fight 12 rounds, one like the rest. I mean, he is a conditioned athlete, and he will not get tired. We will capture this guy. He can only run so far.
Freddie, as big as this fight is, imagine what it would have been 5, 6, 7 years ago when these guys were that much younger and at the peak, I'm sure, then of their physical powers. I mean, are you with everybody else that if 5, 6, 7 years ago this fight would have been a better fight?
I really don't think so, because I think Mayweather is more of a runner in his younger years, and I think he moved more fluently for longer periods of time. I think he had better legs back then. I think that he would have moved a lot more in the early fights. And Pacquiao would always be explosive because he's always very aggressive and he always wants to put a show on. And sometimes he makes a mistake going in there too early and he gets hit. And he has been knocked out before, but the thing is, he knows that's part of life in boxing. I mean, he accepts that. And the thing is, he will cut the ring off this time. He promised me he won't make a mistake like he did in the Algiers fight because he followed him a little bit too much. We did have a good game plan for a long time now, but we made a couple of switches because Floyd is getting older and he wants to change more because I don't think his legs can hold him up for that long period like they used to.
Permit me an absurd question. You've told the stories before about walking into Pacquiao's room and the entourage is laying all over the floor. People open a closet. There are 3 guys sleeping in the closet. The most number of people you've ever been seen sleeping in the entourage on the floor of Manny Pacquiao's room has been how many?
Well, that was back a while ago. It was at least 25, and the ones that are closest are in the best graces. But all that stuff, Manny's wife doesn't allow that. And when Manny is at home, he's at home with the children, her and him, and that's it. The rules have changed quite a bit. It's not they don't have that entourage that they once did. And he does have a lot of people that go on his runs. I think he had about 1,000 people that day at Griffith Park. And I said, Manny, as long as you're the first guy to finish, that's all I care about. I don't care about those 1,000 people. And Manny's, he's changed quite a bit. I think he's a better person now and a better family man. And the other day when I asked him again, will you hit your opponent that hard? And he said, yes, I will. I think the killer instinct is back, and I can't wait to see it.
Freddie, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. We're going to take one last break, but still to come. Joe Thomas has been critical of his teammate Johnny Manziel, but now he says the difference from last year is night and day. How much stock should we put in that?
And A-Rod's big comeback season, is it already fizzling out?
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
A new college football playoff.
College football playoff national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
You're home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
Time to get happy, people. Happy 54th birthday, Isaiah Thomas. Now an analyst on NBA TV, Isaiah's too often left out of the conversation regarding greatest point guards of all time. The best player on a 2-time NBA champ and the best player on an NCAA champ, he's somehow become often overlooked, Danny.
He has? I feel like people know that he was the best player at his size ever in the sport, no?
Nah, I don't know about that anymore, Danny. Happy anniversary, Jeff Van Gundy. On this day 17 years ago, the then Knicks coach tried to break up a fight between Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning, and in one of the most memorable visuals in NBA history, Van Gundy's left clutching Mourning's leg. Van Gundy now calls this insane, but nobody should ever question his toughness. Very impressive pound-for-pound stuff, right, Danny?
He looks like the Queen of Hearts. He also looks like the before person in a cold medicine commercial. Right there more than ever. Look at that.
Happy trails to the Red Wings, who were eliminated from the playoffs by Tampa Bay last night. Detroit used to win these games all the time, it seems, but Tampa's Ben Bishop was fabulous in shutting out the Red Wings, and he is a primary reason a lot of folks think the Lightning can beat Montreal in the next round.
There's another reason. They were 5-0-0 against Montreal this year. They outscored them 21-8, if that means anything.
Yeah, that would sort of help. Apparently, we have no errors today, boys and girls, so that means we can go right ahead to the big finish. Andrew Wiggins is the NBA's Rookie of the Year. Dan, is that the right choice?
It sounds right. Do you think Cleveland's regretting it all, trading him for Kevin Love? Because they might do that. Tim McMahon of ESPN Dallas says the Mavs made up Rajon Rondo's back injury in an attempt to help him save face. Your thoughts?
He might be the first person to report it. We all knew it. Joe Thomas of the Browns tells NFL.com that the difference between Johnny Football last year and this is night and day. You buying that?
I mean, that tends to be what happens when people come out of rehab, right? He wasn't in that rehab like Bones Jones for a day. He was in there for a long time. Alex Rodriguez is batting just 135 over his last 10 games. What does that mean?
It might mean people ought to stop overstating what happens in the first couple of weeks of any baseball season. It's a marathon. It's just too long. The Astros have won 6 straight and lead the AL West. The Stros, Danny, are they for real?
They're for real, but they're not that for real. That was the worst team in baseball by a lot. They're winning 2/3 of their games now. They're not that good. Out of time. Thanks for watching. I'm Dan Batard.
And I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. Check out the PTI podcast on iTunes.
I was better than Kornheiser, wasn't I, Wilbon?
Much better.
Wasn't I?
Much better.
Yes.
Two of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals.
That one is gone.
The pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Radio.